I used to believe blood was unbreakable, until the night my brother looked me in the eye and lied while our family burned behind him. By the time the sirens faded, I knew love could rot, and loyalty could be sold. My name is David Sinclair, and this is the story I've kept locked in my chest for years, because admitting it means admitting how blind I was. We grew up in a small Ohio town where everyone knew your last name before they knew your face. Our father, Richard Mercer, ran a modest construction company, nothing flashy, just honest work, decks, remodels, small commercial jobs. My mother, Elaine, handled the books from the kitchen table, balancing invoices between grocery lists and church flyers. And then there was my younger brother, Ethan, charismatic, quick with a smile, and always convinced he deserved more than the world was offering him. I was the steady one, the dependable son. I learned the business from the ground up, swinging a hammer beside Dad from the age of 15. Ethan? He hated the dust, the sweat, the waiting. He wanted shortcuts. He wanted money now. Back then, I didn't think ambition was dangerous. I thought it was just a difference in personality. Around the time I turned 28, I fell in love with a woman named Claire. She was warm, sharp, and had a way of listening that made you feel seen. She worked at a local credit union and understood money in a way I never had: interest rates, cash flow, leverage. She believed in planning, in building something secure. Dad adored her. Mom cried the first time Claire helped her reorganize the company books just to help. Ethan noticed her too, not romantically, at least, that's what I told myself. He noticed how seriously she took finances, how she spoke about growth and expansion. And suddenly, Ethan was interested in the business again. He came to me one night with a bottle of cheap bourbon and big ideas. Said he wanted to help modernize the company. New contracts, bigger projects, loans to scale up. I was cautious. Dad was cautious. But Claire saw potential, carefully measured, responsibly managed. Against my better judgment, I vouched for Ethan. That was my first mistake. We brought Ethan on officially, gave him a small salary and limited authority. He promised transparency. He promised loyalty. He promised family. Within a year, the company doubled its revenue. I remember thinking I'd been wrong about him. Dad looked 10 years younger. Mom smiled again. Claire and I got engaged, standing in the half-framed living room of the house we were building together. Life felt earned, then the bills started arriving. At first, they were small discrepancies, late fees, notices we didn't recognize. Ethan brushed them off. Accounting glitches, he said. Growing pains. Claire wasn't convinced. She started digging, quietly, carefully. What she found made her pale. There were loans none of us had approved. Lines of credit opened in the company's name, signatures forged with frightening accuracy. Funds moving between accounts late at night. Money vanishing, reappearing, then disappearing for good. When we confronted Ethan, he laughed, said we were panicking. Said this was how real businesses operated. Said if we didn't trust him, we didn't trust growth. Dad wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe him. Claire didn't. The night everything broke, Claire stayed late at work. She called me, her voice shaking. and told me to meet her at the office. She had accessed something she wasn't supposed to. Transaction records flagged internally. Ethan wasn't just stealing. He was laundering money. The construction company had become a front. Fake invoices. Inflated contracts. Shell subcontractors that didn't exist. The money wasn't going into cars or houses. It was flowing offshore, into accounts tied to people we didn't know, people with criminal histories. Before we could go to the police came to us, federal agents. Search warrants. Neighbors watching as boxes of files were carried out of our office. Dad collapsed on the sidewalk, clutching his chest. Mom screamed my brother's name like it was a curse. Ethan was gone, vanished overnight. The company was seized. Accounts frozen. Claire lost her job for accessing confidential systems. Even though she'd been trying to protect us. Dad survived the heart attack, but the damage was permanent, physically and emotionally. Mom stopped sleeping. I hated Ethan with a heat that scared me. Then came the twist that shattered what little certainty I had left. 3 months later, I received a letter. No return address. Inside was a USB drive and a single note. You deserve the truth. On the drive were videos. Recordings. Ethan, sitting across from men I recognized from the news, organized crime figures. He looked terrified. Cornered. He hadn't started this alone. The first loan, the seed money, had been taken by our father, years earlier, before I was involved in the business. Dad had borrowed from the wrong people to cover a failing contract. He'd hidden it. When he couldn't repay, they came back, with terms. Ethan found out accidentally, and they saw an opportunity. Use the son who wanted more. Threaten the family if he refused. Ethan hadn't been the mastermind, he'd been the weapon. That knowledge didn't absolve him. He still chose to lie. He still forged, stole, destroyed. But suddenly the story wasn't simple. It was a chain of bad decisions, each one dragging the next person down. Ethan was eventually caught in Arizona, trying to cross the border with a fake passport. He took a plea deal. Federal prison. No contact. The family never recovered. Dad sold the house. Mom moved in with her sister. Claire and I postponed the wedding, then quietly canceled it. Trauma doesn't care how much you love someone, it still wedges itself between you. We tried, but some nights she'd wake up crying, and some days I'd look at her and see the moment everything fell apart. We let each other go. Now, years later, I live alone in a smaller city. I work honestly. I keep my finances simple. I visit my parents on Sundays. Ethan writes letters I don't open. People ask me if I miss my brother. I miss the idea of him. I miss the kid who used to race me down the driveway. But I've learned something painful and necessary. Love doesn't excuse betrayal. Ambition without ethics is just greed in a suit. And money reveals who you are long before it makes you rich. If there's a lesson in my confession, it's this: protect your integrity more fiercely than your relationships, because the wrong person will ask you to trade one for the other, and the cost will always be higher than you think.